Oh, we are live. Good morning from beautiful downtown Crestline, San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California's Inland Empire. Let's see if I can get this webcam the way I want it. I was going to slip in my dentures, but I don't know. I just didn't. Is reality real? Are your dreams really another life that you're sleeping? Or are they just fantasy? Hmm. Have you watched movies like The Matrix and Inception and Premonition and thought, wow, that really happens sometimes? It really could be true and not just fiction. Well, hello, Two Flag in the chat room. Let me see. Type. I can see the keyboard better with the lamp on, but it kind of messes up the picture. Oh, well, this is not a professional production. It's just us chatting. Anyway, I have to look up Premonition because I never remember the actress's name. Come on, you evil thing. Computers are evil. Okay. I'm going to have to load the site to get the actress's name. Here we go. Sandra Bullock, highly underrated actress. She's amazing. Okay, Two Flag is excited about today's topic and is convinced we are living in some kind of dream world. Yeah, if you read any of Philip K. Dick's work, you'll get that impression. Okay. Premonition. Directed by Menon Yapo. Never heard of him. Written on You Evil Computer. He keeps doing stupid things. Well, Phil wrote realistic fiction in a realistic style. But hang on. I don't have a cough button. Sorry. He tried to develop a style, but Phil did delve into the thoughts of the characters, whereas Hemingway really would not. He would simply describe what happened. So he kind of mixed in a little bit of William Faulkner with Hemingway's newspaper reporter style. But he would base his work on visions and the little events of ordinary daily life. And he came to the conclusion that these fantasies really were more real than our daily lives, that they had a deeper meaning and meant more for our souls. Another great movie that is not The Matrix is this one, Inception, with what's his name? I'm bad at names. Come on. I need light. I'm really bad at names. Really famous actor. What's his name? Come on. Come on. Come on. Leonardo DiCaprio. Is he the guy in Titanic? I think so. In this one, he enters people's dreams to change the world. He's some kind of federal agent. Two Flag says yes. He's the guy from Titanic. I kind of watched Titanic, but I kept getting distracted because I have cats. I don't often get to a theater. In the theater on two hands, no feet, no toes, just my fingers. 2001, I think I saw Airplane in the theater or internet. And I saw Star Wars and one more. Well, that movie, I didn't bother to see part two because part one was walk, walk, run, hide, walk, walk, run, hide, walk, walk, run, hide. Ooh, look, a dragon. The end. And Two Flag Gargle Blap. I'll just call you Two Flag. One interesting thing about Inception is that the song that people used to kick them awake was Je ne regrette rien. Yes, French for I regret nothing. I kind of suspect that people can enter other people's dreams. Phil and I shared a dream once, and it was during his pink light experience of really amazing visions. I was dreaming that I was part of a family of ancient humans, not necessarily Neanderthal, but, Stone Age. And we had a bonfire going at night, and my cat was upset, and the cat was a saber-toothed tiger. Well, Phil was dreaming that he was the saber-toothed tiger, a giant cat, and he was in a cage, and flying reptiles were coming down, swooping down to attack him, and he couldn't run away because he was in a cage. Well, he woke me up because he started hissing because he thought he was a cat, and he was scared. I jumped out of bed and stood at the foot of the bed just shouting his name until he woke up. And when he was a bit recovered, he explained that calling his name was, if not the only thing, the best thing to do, because it pulled him back to the reality in which he was Phil and not a cat. He was convinced that if he had stayed in the dream, he would have been killed by the flying reptiles, and it probably would have killed him here in the waking world. Anyway, we did share that dream, and I really think the most likely explanation for his visions was an early iteration of the CIA's Voice of God technology that was designed to use microwaves, like radio waves, to put thoughts into people's heads and make them hear voices. Okay, Two Flag, am I a fan of Jung's work? Well, somewhat. Phil was really a big fan of Carl Jung and that psychology. Let's see, Jung studied a lot of dreams. Yeah. The synchronicity. He thinks Two Flag thinks that Jung was hinting that synchronicity was an indication of the dreamlike nature of this reality. And by the way, it's okay to call him Jung. We're Americans, but I studied German, so I pronounce it the way Germans would. Jung spoke German. Jung was a student of Freud, but he strongly disagreed with Freud because Freud was so hung up on sex in dream interpretation and in counseling psychology. Well, even Freud said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Doesn't have to be sexual. Someone ought to tell Bill Clinton that. Never hurts to crack a dumb joke in the middle of a serious discussion. Okay. Now, I have on DVD The Matrix Reloaded, but I've been warned that it isn't very good. We'll see. Eventually, I'll watch it. Anyway, The Matrix kind of looks real. And Phil said we are in a computer programmed reality. If he were alive now, he'd see it even more strongly. We live on the internet. We're talking on the internet right now through YouTube. And there are other platforms like StreamYard, Spreaker, Locals, Rumble, Zoom. Everybody was doing Zoom meetings for a couple years, and some have continued. Well, Jung also wrote about flying saucers, by the way. Now, it's weird in this moment to think about AI, artificial intelligence. For all I know, the people in chat are just AI bots posting things from a list in their documents folder. For all you know, I'm AI. I'm not. If you cut me, I bleed. AI doesn't bleed. Oh, dear, Two Flags sometimes wonders if he or she is a robot. Well, Phil wrote about that in The Electric Ant. The man thought he was human, and one day his arm was damaged. The skin came open, and he saw all the wires and so forth inside it. And he thought, gee, I have an artificial arm. I didn't know that. Well, it turns out he's completely a robot. I won't give you any spoilers. You'll have to read it yourself. I'm pretty sure there's an audiobook available. It's just a short story. Oh, and there was a film produced based on that story. I think it was on Netflix. I haven't seen it. And I'm certain there's a comic book version. The comics just love Philip K. Dick, like that R. Crumb comic about his pink light vision, which is, well, it's the way Phil told it, but the real event was less dramatic. Even so, I cannot for the life of me figure out how Phil knew that our son had an inguinal hernia. But he did. He was taking a nap, which he did every day, Phil was, and he got up and walked out to the living room. He appeared to be in a trance. I think he was. Oh, hi. And he just calmly said, call Dr. Quack. That's what we called our doctor, not his real name. Call Dr. Quack and tell him that our son has an inguinal hernia. And then Phil walked back to the bedroom and lay down and went back to sleep. So I called the doctor, made an appointment. A few days later, we took our son in, and yep, he had an inguinal hernia. So we got referred to a specialist who told us that our son was not old enough to get the corrective surgery. So we had to make sure that we did not let him cry for 4 months, because that could cause the hernia to strangulate. And when our son was 18 months old, he got the surgery to correct the hernia. Now, in the dramatic version, it's the middle of the night, rush him to the ER and tell the doctor exactly what's wrong. Didn't happen that way. And by the way, when Phil said it popped the hydrocele, he revealed his ignorance of the medical situation. A hydrocele is a watery cyst that needs to be removed. It's like a tiny marble filled with water. It is not a seal that keeps things in or out. Yeah, Two Flag, they say there's a fine line between genius and madness. To some extent, I believe that's because people who lack imagination mistake imagination for hallucination. We humans have this ability to look at a cloudy sky and see familiar shapes in the clouds. That doesn't mean we're crazy. It means we have imagination. There is a problem when you can't quite draw the line between imagination and solid, ordinary reality. Oh, things popping into your head. One time, also during Phil's experience, and I think to some extent I was affected by this microwave attack that was directed at Phil. I had a dream in which I had to tell my cousin that the police were coming. Apparently, we were in something like Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia, and the black boots were coming to round us up. Now, Phil knew a little German, but really not much, as I discovered later when I studied the German language in college. And I really didn't know much at all. I knew what I picked up from that movie, The Great Escape. So I knew Fräulein was young woman. I knew Danke was thank you and not much else. And in this dream, now my cousin actually did speak German in real life. So I was telling him in German, which makes me suspect that we were probably in Russia because I wanted a language that the police would not understand. And of course, at least in the 70s, everybody in the world knew a little English. So I said, Die Büttelstreife kommen. Now, Büttelstreife with an umlauted U, is an obsolete term from the late Middle Ages and early Renaissance for a sheriff's patrol. In America, we might call it a posse. Now, I kind of knew the word Polizei for police in German, but Büttelstreife? Phil wouldn't know that word. I didn't know that word. I had to track it down in a German dictionary because even after I woke up from the dream, I was thinking, what did I tell him? What is that word? Well, in late Middle Ages, early Renaissance, the sheriff had an office in the king's court, and if he wanted to round somebody up, he would appoint deputies to go out and get that person and form a sheriff's patrol. Things are different in modern times. So anyway, where'd I get that word? Phil didn't know it. I didn't know it. And yet in the dream, it just rolled off my tongue as if I were a native speaker of German with some knowledge of history and obsolete words. Well, after I studied German in college for 3 years and got a degree in it, and I had never come across that term, but I understood that context. One of the reasons I think it was like radio waves or microwave, which is basically the same thing, is that our darn radio kept playing when it was unplugged. It didn't have a battery. It was not that kind of radio. But one night it just kept on playing after I unplugged it. Now I heard soft popular music, But Phil heard the singers like Carly Simon telling him to die. It played Linda Ronstadt's You're No Good. And then it played Carly Simon, You're So Vain. And Phil thought Carly Simon was telling him to kill himself. I just heard the music, but it was weird. Anyway, when the visions eventually stopped, they slowed down and eventually stopped. And Phil was certain they would stop when we moved out of that apartment and into a house a few miles away. They did stop. He missed those visions and tried deliberately to bring them back. Oh, Two Flag had a microwave oven turn itself on and off when it was unplugged, and the word die appeared on the clock readout. Oh, no wonder you had a mental blowout. That would scare me. Well, hi, Dawn Burnham. Dawn is here. I'm waiting for my amazing chat room to give me more and more ideas about why this reality is not quite real, or why our dreams are more real than we credit them for. Now, in the Matrix, the hero, I keep forgetting his name. The hero can fly and bounce off the walls and stuff and run faster than the speed of sound. I don't think we're in that kind of Matrix. Oh, life is but a dream. Neo, thank you, Don. I just think they named him poorly. Neo just means new. Oh well. Anyway, life is but a dream. It reminds me of that song from the 80s. Life is but a dream, sweetheart. But it's actually it's from literature that I know, but can't bring it up from my brain to my mouth. Dream, Two Flag says. Saying this is all a dream is a bit like saying consciousness is the first principle of existence. Oh, Neo is an anagram for the one? Okay. I might have called him Zero, Ground Zero, the beginning, the main target, primary target. Anyway, they made me read all these books in college, and now they're all jumbled up. Candide is about a young man who is being tutored by a philosopher who believes that everything is for the best. No matter how horrible these things seem to be, we are living in the best of all possible worlds. He's an optimist in the sense of the philosophy of optimism. And then the earthquake hits in Portugal. Come on, brain. I should do this late at night instead of the morning. The Lisbon earthquake hits. Thousands of people die, especially in the churches, because the churches collapse in the earthquake. And Candide gives up philosophy, and no matter what people say to him, his response is, they're trying to talk philosophy and stuff. He just says, I must tend my garden. He's old and scarred from his experiences. The beautiful lady he married is now an old hag who's also scarred. His troubles began when he fell in love with the daughter of the Lord, because Candide was just a worker, a serf. But it's the philosopher, Dr. Pangloss. Good name, Pangloss, who wears rose-colored glasses, by the way, keeps saying, but this is the best of all possible worlds. It could be worse. And Candide just says, I must tend my garden. He's got a little garden where he grows his own food. Well, that all kinds of bad things happen to poor Candide, who is candid in the sense of easily influenced. And this optimism, let me get a hint from Google because I'm still blanking. Google is my friend. I know there are supposedly better search engines, but their first page is always a bunch of ads. One of the earliest forms of philosophical optimism was Socrates' theory of moral intellectualism, which formed part of the thinker's enlightenment model through the process of self-improvement. Oh, yeah. But Voltaire, who wrote Candide, was convinced that if this were the best possible world, it should surely be better than it is. I'm still not getting the philosopher's name. So I guess Google is not my friend. Anyway, I don't know about that, but I think we're here to make the world better. Oh, hi, Theobald. Good to see you again. I got 3 chatters now. And Theobald says, all the pieces of the puzzles fit comfortably under simulation theory. Most High AI, Valis, multiverse timelines, artificial intelligence is original intelligence? Well, frankly, AI, or artificial intelligence, knows only what some human puts into the program. Do you want your AI designed by Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin? Or Pol Pot? If you don't know who Pol Pot was, look it up. Cambodia, massacres. He was anti-intelligentsia to the point where anyone who wore eyeglasses was killed because they probably read books. You know, in the middle of all this was the Watergate hearings on Richard Nixon's impeachment. And for a time, Phil thought that Nixon was the devil incarnate. But he softened his view. Still never liked Richard Nixon for a number of reasons, mostly political. But I'm thinking that today, right now, we have an echo of Watergate going on in our Congress. Nixon was a good man, faithful to his wife and children. Not necessarily a good president, but better than LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. He was an evil man and a bad president. However, under Nixon, we had that rationing of gasoline. It went by the numbers on your license plate. So, like, I could buy gas on Tuesday, but not on Wednesday because there was a shortage due to the Gulf oil crisis. The Arabs raised the prices and cut the supplies. And we always thought it was ridiculous because the United States exports oil. We can produce enough for our own domestic consumption and still export oil, but you know, you kind of have to drill for it. Oh, and basically he was Watergated and he fell for it. He had nothing to do with the original crime of spying on the Democrats, breaking into their headquarters and looking for information. But when he found out about it afterward, he tried to cover it up. That was his mistake, and it was a crime. Impeding an investigation of a crime is a crime. Well, so Nixon resigned in the middle of the impeachment hearings. Nixon had been withdrawing troops from Vietnam, but Gerald Ford took over. Gerald Ford of his claim to fame was that he was on the, oh come on, I'm forgetting things I have known since childhood. The Warren Commission, the one that decided that a magic bullet killed President Kennedy and also wounded Governor what's his name of Texas. Oh, actors in the White House quoting Creedence Clearwater Revival. Yeah, people used to call them CCR, and that always confused me because there's another group called, well, I think he's a solo artist, CC Rider. Anyway, Gerald Ford messed up that evacuation from Vietnam so terribly. People were waiting on the roof of the American embassy, and they were still waiting when the last helicopter left. our allies and even some American citizens had to get on any rickety old boat they could find. They were the boat people, because if they stayed, they would be killed or shoved into prison and tortured and then killed. Hi, Howard. Howard is here. Yeah, I've been on for 40 minutes and YouTube finally told you I was on the air, eh? Well, anyway, that's why Jimmy Carter got elected after Gerald Ford finished Richard Nixon's term. I voted for Carter because I was not about to vote for Gerald Ford. After the mess he made of Vietnam. Yes, we wanted our boys to come home. Our men and women did not belong there because the U.S. wasn't even trying to win. Our wealthy and powerful elites were trying to drag out the war because they profited from it. And Nixon was winding it down, helping us to get out in an orderly manner. Sound familiar in recent times? We're still in a matrix in the sense that our government determines reality. They tell social media to take down posts because people disagree with the party line. Mainstream news, which is really legacy news, has turned into a combination of popularity contests and opinion pieces masquerading as news. You don't get the real story. And I had only recently started watching YouTube clips of Tucker Carlson here and there. And suddenly he was gone. And Fox News has lost about half of its viewers, maybe more than half. And Tucker Carlson put a short video on Twitter. It got so far 80 million views. His 8 o'clock time slot on Fox is getting about 2 million views. Tucker Carlson used to get 3 to 3.5 million views every night. He was entertaining, kind of light on the news. You know, not a lot of journalism there, but frankly, more than I was getting from MSNBC and CNN, and he's gone. People are boycotting Fox, and they're also boycotting Budweiser. No, I don't drink beer anyway, so I can't boycott it. I never buy beer. Oh, once in a while I'll buy a craft beer to make bread, but I don't drink beer. It won't stay down. No fun. Oh, yes, Don, I'm as mad as hell and not gonna take it anymore. The classic movie Network. they're about to fire their anchorman on the evening news because he's going crazy. And he really is crazy. He's insane. His speech is something like, leave me my shag carpet and my TV dinners and my radial tires. Just leave me alone. I'm as mad as, no, he wants everybody in the audience to lean out your window and shout, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And people do. And his ratings skyrocket. So instead of firing him and getting him help for his mental breakdown, they keep him on the air until some lunatic shoots him dead on the set. Yeah, bread, beer bread. Howard Beale, yes. I love that movie. I could watch it over and over if I had the time. So, in a sense, our world is made by the media we consume. In my community, yeah, we have some homeless, we have some criminals, but most of the people here are good people who are just trying to get by, to work for a living, pay their bills, and enjoy life. I've never heard of Bullworth, Two Flag. I'll have to look up that movie. And we help each other. Recently, in the last week of February and most of the month of March, we were snowbound. Partly because we got a lot of snow, but also, see, we are not cities. We're unincorporated, and the county was not prepared. They claimed that they were surprised that the weather forecast was right and we got between 6 and 12 feet of snow dumped on us in 1 week. Yeah. I mean, I was watching images on weather reports showing the whole Pacific Ocean, just one gigantic storm, one coming from Hawaii, the Pineapple Express, and one coming from the north, way up north, down through Alaska and into California, and the two storms met. Now, up at Lake Tahoe on the California-Nevada border, about 300 miles north of here, they got it even worse. Entire houses were buried. People were climbing onto their roofs and asking for rescue to come and get them because even their second floor windows were covered in snow. They couldn't get out. But here, I was snowed in. Now, the way this house was built, the door opens in, so the snow. Hi, Larry and Creature. Well, the snow did not stop me from opening my door, but I opened the door to a wall of snow. It was about 4 feet high, and I wasn't about to climb it because it was soft and powdery, which meant that I would sink into it up to my waist. So I couldn't go anywhere till someone came from outside and dug me out. So, of course, I called the Baptist church. I had already, when the snow wasn't as deep, I had already paid a friend a friend's daughter to dig me out, and she got help because it was so much work. But when I opened the door to this 4-foot wall, I called the church. They sent someone out. Had a mild winter in eastern Pennsylvania, hardly any snow. And Larry says hardly any snow in the UK, just rain, rain, rain. Yeah, England benefits from the Gulf Stream, but let me warn you, the Gulf Stream is moving farther south. England might get really cold in the future. Not today, not tomorrow, not this year. Maybe 10 or 20 years from now. Well, if you like the rain, Don, you should live in Seattle. Of course, they're getting snow too this year. This is a 50-year storm. And I can't help but thinking they activated HAARP, HAARP, as in angels don't play this harp. And then it began to snow. Oh, Larry's in Manchester. Way up north, in near Scotland, eh? He's used to cold and rain. Do you know that in the medieval warm period, they were growing grapes and making wine in England? They kind of do a little now, but no, they had grapevines all over the place. Now down in, oh dear, I think it's Cornwall, very far south of England, they have a pretty good climate. Don has never been across the pond, never even been on a plane. Well, I've been on a plane, but I've never been farther from home than Denver, Colorado. Howard is stepping out for his usual noon break. Well, here in beautiful downtown Crestline, it's 9 a.m., so you must be in the east. Yeah, I think it's Cornwall. Anyway, the very south of England, that's where the ancient Romans would send their trading vessels. They would bring pottery and wine and all kinds of stuff and trade it for tin to make their brass and bronze. Larry hopes I'm doing well. Well, been better, been worse. You guys need to get out and get something to eat. I'm hungry too. Don's having a cigarette and coffee break with me. Okay. I always smoke too much when I'm on YouTube. The rest of the day, I don't keep lighting one after the other. But, oh well. I puff on them. I go, pretty much puff. I don't breathe in if I can avoid it. Don had 2 eggs and toast. I'm going to fry up some bacon. Don loves his cigarettes, or maybe he loves my cigarettes. Anyway, we are in a matrix, at least in the sense that the media create our greater reality around us. I haven't seen the mayhem that you see on the news in the big cities, where people are shoved so close together and have so little. They have little now and little hope that they'll ever have more. The cities are being burned down, torn apart, trashed. You couldn't pay me to live in a big city. Now, there was, in the George Floyd thing, there was a riot down the hill in the valley, but nothing like Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles. They tried to break into a bank, but they couldn't get in because our law enforcement stopped them. Well, actually, they got into the lobby, but they couldn't get into the vault. They were rounded up and dragged away. Oh, Philadelphia, Don says. Trash all over the place. Don heard that Chicago is a nice city. New York is a lot nicer than it's been in a long time. Well, I suppose it depends upon which neighborhood you're talking about. But San Bernardino, you wouldn't know it from the media. It's actually a very conservative county. But that's really strange in California. Unfortunately, due to, in part to corruption by politicians, San Bernardino went bankrupt. The city did. The county's doing okay. But we went through a manufactured disaster, at least partially manufactured, because the county was not prepared to remove the snow that we all knew was coming. In prior years, when there wasn't nearly that much snow, the county brought in skip loaders and dump trucks to fill them up with snow and haul it away. Well, this time, they just sent a few snow plows, and there were not enough snow plows. And there were a few front loaders, but no dump trucks. Front loaders are not quite as big and powerful as skip loaders, but they have a scoop. So my front driveway, right outside my fence, I have a driveway that's about 45 feet wide and 12 feet deep. They filled it with snow. In different parts, it ranged between 6 feet and 10 feet, and the one peak was 12 feet deep in snow, the whole driveway, front to back and side to side. But this time, unlike other years, they were nice enough not to bury my footpath. My footpath had about 2 feet of snow, little narrow path where I could walk out to the street and go to the mini mart and get some food and cigarettes. In a sense, that's part of the matrix because it didn't have to be such a disaster. And when they sent the skip loaders, well, we have some private roads. They don't do the private roads. They don't clear the snow, but they dumped their snow into these private roads. People who were digging out with shovels were reburied by people clearing the streets. They're not supposed to do that. How much is a pack of cigarettes? Depends on the brand. My Camel filters are about $10, including the tax. The Dunhill Red from England is closer to $15. But I have good friends. I will not run out of cigarettes, and I will never run out of food. Yeah, I can't roll by hand. I have tried and tried. Even those little machines where you go kunk and shove it in, can't do it. American spirits. Yeah, they are no longer Native American spirits, and they're incredibly expensive. So I'm going to get one of those machines where you put it on the table and you turn the crank, because I can do that and make my own cigarettes. I know it'll cost me far less. And we finally have a smoke shop where I can get the tobacco and the machine. In past years, they were mostly marijuana and, major brands of cigarettes. Now I can get what I need. I've looked them up online, and they're too expensive that way. But if I buy them locally, yeah, they'll be really cheap. So anyway, things are kicking along. You go through a packet a day if you buy them. Yeah, you need to roll them up. Yeah, marijuana is not what it used to be when I was in high school. We'd get a baggie stuffed, 3 or 4 fingers full. And really, with 3 or 4 of us sitting around the table, we'd have to smoke the whole baggie full to get a high. All it ever did for me was make me hungry. Anyway, so we had a manufactured emergency, and most of the help we got was not from the disaster relief. Our churches and nonprofits, including Lions Club of Crestline, I'm a member of it, stepped up. The Lions Club bought shovels and gave people snow shovels. And those of us who could, who were not too old and rickety, went out and shoveled snow for people. And we gathered food and other supplies and gave them out. And every church and nonprofit on the mountain stepped up. Well, the FEMA, the emergency response, they set up one little food bank that most people could not get to because the roads were not passable and we had to walk everywhere. And 5 miles is a long way when it's uphill in the snow and you have to carry your bags of food because you can't get a car up there. Oh yeah, the main road was plowed. You couldn't get your car out of the driveway, and the smaller roads that people live on were not passable. Well, anyway, yeah, we have a new organization and a new motto, Mountain Strong. Oh, I don't want to hear about your drugs, Larry. I actually don't do drugs, not even the ones that the doctor gives me. Well, I have muscle relaxants. That's it. That's all I got. And I use them only if I'm going to do a lot of walking, like in the grocery store. because the muscle spasms in my back make it difficult to walk. Oh, psilocybin. I ate blue mushrooms twice in my entire life. I mean, you've got to at a Grateful Dead concert. Even though I never saw the concert, I sold my ticket to buy shrooms. And I'm telling you, I didn't know they were illegal back then, and the statute of limitation is decades gone. But never look in the mirror when you've eaten a blue mushroom. Just don't do it. You will be so sorry. Yeah, weed talk. That's okay. I don't let the chat replay, so it'll disappear when I sign off. 13th floor elevators, huh? Okay. Larry, I don't know what those are, and I probably don't want to know. But see, I don't need drugs to have a psychedelic experience. I just meditate. I relax and meditate, and I get the same effect without the side effects. Oh, a 60s band that invented psych rock. Well, I was there in the 60s, but it's so horrible. I didn't have a radio, and Mom would not allow rock and roll music in her house anyway. So I missed out on a lot of the music. When I met Phil, I kind of knew who Janis Joplin was. Never heard of Jimi Hendrix. And Phil was a big fan of both of them. He had this theory that good music of any genre could free you from the matrix. Moody Blues. Love the Moody Blues, but they're kind of what you might call milquetoast, but I like them. Anyway, I knew who Janis Joplin was because there was so much news about her death. And so I heard some of her music, like Bobby McGee. Trying to remember who wrote it for her, not Gordon Lightfoot. A member of the Outlaws of country music. The one who can't sing, and people don't care. They like him anyway. It's gone. Well, anyway, he wrote the song for her. And he recorded it himself, but I like it better when Janis Joplin sings it. Anyway, Phil loved rock and roll. He also liked Seals and Crofts and oh heck, can't remember. The guy who became a Sufi. And he was actually denied the right to fly because he had a Muslim sounding name. I cannot drag up his name. He was kicked off the plane. I remember that. shortly after 9/11. Cat Stevens. Thank you, Don. Yeah, Phil liked Cat Stevens. And he also liked a wide range of classical music. Bach, not only Johann Sebastian Bach, but also his son, C.P.E. Bach. Howard is back, and now we're talking about music. And Larry thinks that rock and roll and art and books and love free you from this matrix indeed. Yeah. And by the way, don't let go of your books that are made out of paper. The electronic versions can be hacked, deleted, edited, scrambled. So, anyway, yeah, the media create our reality because we believe them. And what is it about withholding belief? When we watch a movie or read a work of fiction, we suspend our disbelief and accept it as real. But what would happen if we denied the belief of what we get from the media? Oh, yeah, exactly, Dawn. They can change the books to fake the Mandela effect. As I'm fond of saying, and I'll say it again, they don't need to change history. They need only change the history books. As far as reparations go, for example, I'm the direct descendant of a black African slave, but I don't get reparations because my skin is fair. And several of my ancestors died in the Civil War to free the slaves. That doesn't qualify me for reparations. And one sea captain in particular in my ancestry died at sea while trying to stop the Atlantic slave trade. Doesn't matter. My skin is fair. If your skin is dark enough and you live in California, even if you just immigrated from Jamaica, you can get reparations. Thanks. I'm all for equality. I'm all for ignoring skin color, religion, political views, and just looking at a person's integrity. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Yeah, I've been told that I'm part Cherokee. The problem is that's the code that parents used to use to avoid telling their children that they were part black. Now, my black ancestor's son married a woman who might have been white or might have been Cherokee. There were reservation Cherokee who looked just like me. So I'm betting that I am part Cherokee. Her name was Louisa Clark, or Louise Clark, named after Lewis and Clark. Yeah, I'm a bit of a mutt, but I'm 1/4 Scottish, and the rest of me has an awful lot of Welsh and uh, English descendants of the Norman conquerors, like Foster. But the Evanses were Welsh. My great grandma was Marianne Evans, and she married a Foster. Yeah, it's the DNA analysis even shows me with some Greek and Romanian ancestry, very tiny bits, like 2%, and some Baltic ancestry, like, the Scandinavian countries. I've had 2 different companies run my DNA, and they do agree that I'm mostly Scottish and English. I don't know. But, most of us are what you call mutts. We're mixed. And that's a good thing. Because if you keep marrying people who look just like you, you're going to increase the genetic defects that you hand down to your children and grandchildren. It's better to marry people who are not so much like you. And yet I fell in love with Phil, who was 3/4 Scottish and 1/4 English. And here I'm approximately the opposite. I don't know what they do with the DNA. I'm sure they sell the data, supposedly anonymously. But, they charge you $100 and then they sell your data to someone else for even more money. I should get royalties when they sell my data. Thanks for stopping by, Larry. Uh, Try to type it before he actually leaves. Yeah, I love my chat room. I love you guys. You're so smart. You help me out a lot. Okay. Who wrote that song about the ship that sank in Lake Superior? I'm trying to remember the lyrics. It's of Edmund Fitzgerald. No. Well, maybe he didn't write it, but he had a hit record with it, a hit single. Gosh darn it. Let's see if Google can help me. Oh, come on, you evil computer. Quit that. Oh, it is Gordon Lightfoot. Huh. Okay, let me try this. I'm sure well, maybe it is Gordon Lightfoot that I want. I'm looking. I think it was Chris Christopherson who wrote Bobby McGee. That's the guy I've been looking for. Anyway, about a dozen country singers and pop singers and so forth recorded Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Well, whether you were off or not, Howard, I'm always thankful for you helping me. Now I got to look up Scott Stevens after I sign off. I think music can take us to another world. Phil used to play Carole King's Tapestry album, one entire side of a 33 RPM LP, vinyl, big disc. About half an hour was this song, Tapestry. And at the end, the little man turned into a toad. That's the end of the song. So Phil would go around asking people, can toads talk? And he never let on, well, he let on to me, obviously, but he wouldn't let on that he was referring to Carole King's Tapestry album. It's a sort of a fantasy, and it really can take you elsewhere. And because it plays for about half an hour, you have a long time to relax, settle in, and let your imagination flow. These what do they call them? The people who hold these conferences to teach you how to succeed, they'll tell you if you imagine it, you can make it. What they don't tell you is that you still have to roll up your sleeves and work. TED Talks. That's what they've become. They used to be really good till they started banning people who were on the fringe. They actually took down TED Talk videos of people they disagreed with. How dare you suggest that Egyptians did not build the pyramids? Well, whoever built them, they must have been Egyptians because they lived in Egypt. But they were not today's Egyptians. Don says, I built them. Ha. And there's all this stuff like the Giza Death Star. Maybe it was a weapon. Joseph Patrick Farrell makes a good case for that. But I'm thinking, well, I'll bet it was a weapon when the Grand Gallery was open to the air before all those other stones were piled on top of it. That thing is a ramp that could accommodate a missile. Oh, Atlantis built them. Yeah, there's pyramids all over the world, but the ones at Giza are strange. Yeah, they kind of look like the stars of Orion's belt. But there's another author, and I forget which one, makes a good case that they're actually part of a larger group of pyramids running farther north and south that form the Swan constellation, Cygnus. Maybe. And just a short distance from the Great Pyramid, there's a man-made cave, a sort of shrine to birds, and it contains hundreds and hundreds of bird mummies. So who knows? But we aren't allowed to explore and speculate. It's like the Grand Canyon. No, you can't go there. You might look at something that will upset you. Only the designated tourists can go there. It's dangerous. Yeah, whatever the pyramids were, they don't tell us. It does show evidence of gradual building up from an original shrine related to underground water. You know, the big hole underneath the Great Pyramid that's filled with rubble, broken rocks and stuff. Might have been the original holy place. And then someone built on top of it. And then hundreds of years later, someone else built some more on top of it, and so on and so forth. Yeah, Howard thinks the Sphinx was originally a lion lined up with Leo. Yeah, Graham Hancock makes a good point for that. And of course, oh, come on, the geologist who looked at the Sphinx and said that's rain erosion. He also wrote a book called The Voices of the Rocks, which I've been meaning to read, and I can't think of his name. So the Sphinx must have been built before it rained, while the Ice Age was melting. Do you know that in the early 60s, the adults around me were saying that the real reason that North Africa is in a drought, the real reason why the desert, the Sahara, is expanding, is because of weather control that the U.S. is stopping the rainy weather from traveling across the Atlantic to North Africa. And there's good evidence that at one time the Sahara Desert was actually a lush green expanse. And now all we have left are small oases where there's still some water. But it started the process of desertification long time ago. I suppose we're all going to have to buy electric cars to support slave labor in China and child labor in the Congo. Even the people in Congress, the House and the Senate, are talking about that. Why do we buy things from China? Things we could make here. Well, government regulation stops us, even though we can do it cleaner and better. There's something wrong with that sort of logic that we should just buy it from China. The cobalt is mined by children in North Africa. Well, it isn't quite north, in West Africa in the Congo. And the lithium is mined by Uyghur slaves in China. Gonna convert your truck to wood power. Yeah, get a steam engine. Use coal. Oh, we can't mine coal. It's dirty. Well, I guess you could use charcoal or good oak wood that's been seasoned a couple of years. Yeah, well, I don't have a car. In California, I can't afford one. The way it works here, you know, most states you register your car every year for about $20. Not California. You pay the sales tax when you buy your car, and you keep paying it again every year. I had a 10-year-old clunker that cost me almost $300 every year to get my little registration sticker. And the insurance is pretty expensive, even though I get a good driver discount. And gasoline is about, well, it's like 1 penny or a tenth of a penny under $5 a gallon. But they tell me it's even more expensive back east, like in New Hampshire, which has the highest price in the nation. Oh, hi, Delta Dart. Just saw this, huh? I'm at an hour and a half so far. We are definitely in a matrix made of media, creating the reality in which they want us to believe. You don't get much news anymore, and what you do get is just a tidbit. You get personalities and pretty people reading teleprompters and giving their opinions. You know, we had little respect for people like Walter Cronkite because we suspected that they were slanting the news toward a particular political agenda. But now it's right out in the open. They say things like Trump is racist, DeSantis is a fascist. They don't tell you what they said or did. They don't want you to make up your own mind. I don't know whether those things are true. Show me the evidence. You cannot turn to Fox News. Are you kidding me? Never could, really. And there's some other channels like Newsmax and the Next News Network and whatever, plus some of the people who got fired from Fox have their own channels. But even they, at least openly, push their own views. At least they show more of the evidence. Goebbels would be jealous. Yes, Howard. I used to read the Sunday paper. Didn't have time to read the daily. And besides, the Sunday paper had book and movie reviews and the comics in color. I can't find other than the local weekly, I can't find a newspaper I want to read. Our local weekly has the news of events happening in our community and nearby. There is an editorial column with opinion, but basically it's the news. But in general, even newspapers have resorted to headlines that are nothing more than clickbait. Oh, I got to read that. And you get into the article and you're going, what does that have to do with the title? It's like these crazy YouTube ads that run for half an hour or longer. Here's how you can end the heartbreak of psoriasis. And if you watch it to the end, they never tell you how. They tell you to click through and buy their product or service. Ah, yes, Simon and Garfunkel, Don. I gather all the news I need on the weather report. Nowadays, I have to get several different weather reports because you know, they don't quite get it right. But if you look at 3 or more forecasts, you have a pretty good idea of what's coming. Hey, it's sunny today. For example, they said it would rain on us Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Well, it rained all day Monday and all day Tuesday, and this morning it was overcast, but now the sun is out. And that's another thing. Global warming. When I was in high school, it was global cooling. We were headed into a new glaciation, a new ice age. We're still in the ice age, but the glaciers have receded quite a bit. They've never really gone away on the border between Italy and Switzerland, and they haven't gone away in the Himalayas. But for the most part, they're way up north and way down south. Well, then suddenly we were headed into global warming because the ice didn't come. We were supposed to be covered in ice by 1980. Didn't happen. Okay, the oceans were supposed to be um, drowning entire island nations by 2005. Didn't happen. So now it's climate change. Well, yeah, climate changes. The question is, do we contribute to the change? How much do we contribute? And is it CO2 that does it? Probably not. CO2 is plant food. Maybe deforestation is a problem, but not because of CO2. It's because of what it does to the soil. And methane. Yeah, methane's a problem. So they want us to stop using natural gas in our homes. But when you burn natural gas, yeah, if it fails to burn, like the pilot goes out and the gas doesn't shut off, well, that used to happen with old technology, but our appliances will not open the gas valve if the pilot isn't working, whether it's a little flame pilot or an electronic pilot. The gas will not flow, so it won't leak. Yes, Tora, you're cute. Come say hi to your adoring fans. Let go of the chair and get your face in the camera. Oh, the other day she was squinting, which is kitty kisses. There you go. Kitty kisses. She loves to say hi to her adoring fans, don't you? Oh man, you're heavy. You're the heaviest kitty cat in the universe. Yeah, yes indeed. Oh, you're so big. She used to be a little thing. Oh, she's about 2 years old now. Ah, and huge. Yes, dear, I'll get your treats. She gets treats after she says hi to her adoring fans, don't ya? Kitty junk food. There you go. Here. I don't know. Overcast. I kind of like an overcast day if it isn't too cold, because when I go out to do yard work, I don't get as hot and sunburned, and I sunburn easily. But today I will be going out and clearing weeds and trash. The worst part of the snow is that when it melted, the mess appeared. My location and my fences cause trash to accumulate from all over the block when the wind blows. Yeah, all my rose bushes have their leaves now. My rose bushes are taller than I am, and when the snow was at its deepest, you could not see any of them. They were completely buried. I want so badly to plant a vegetable garden. Usually the first week of May, maybe middle of May is a good time, but we keep getting cold snaps. I really need to put up a small greenhouse of some sort so I can plant earlier because our growing season is short. And even though we can get fast growing seeds and little potted seedlings at the local garden shop, they don't always have enough time. I'm definitely planting tomatoes this year. Last year, nobody got a good crop, not even tomatoes, and my wild blackberry vines barely produced any berries. But this year, oh, and the apple tree didn't even bloom. But this year, I expect a lot because of the snow and the snow melt and the rain. No, Tora, you stay out of my coffee. She likes to put her paw in my coffee and lick it. Coffee's bad for cats. It'll give you a heart attack. You didn't want that flavor? Is that your problem? Well, where is the other one? Oh, it's under the Cheetos. Yeah, I try to eat healthful, real food, but nobody's taking away my Cheetos. Nobody. There's some things I will not give up. I just don't eat them all day, every day. Here you go. Eat it or don't. Yep, it was the wrong flavor of kitty treats. She's tired of chicken. She wanted the other one. Yeah, I like veggies. Cauliflower, broccoli. I love a good salad. Just lettuce and tomatoes. You don't have to make it fancy. And I just plop some mayonnaise on it. The best way, of course, is to make your own mayonnaise. But since the egg in it isn't cooked, you really should get pasteurized eggs for that. And it's basically in a blender, you mix eggs and oil, the oil of your choice, a little mustard, a little vinegar, a little salt, and blend it till it's emulsified. Oh, Whoppers and candy corn, you're talking my language, Howard. I went to the grocery store last week, first time in months, because our local grocery store got wiped out by the snow. The roof caved in. But I got a ride to a Stater Brothers, and I forgot. I didn't even go down the candy aisle. I was too busy getting real food. Now, Whoppers was always the cheap brand. There was a better brand of malted milk balls covered in chocolate, but I haven't seen it in ages and I forgot what it's called. Oh, Dawn likes Snickers. Root beer barrels, gummy bears, and Tootsie Rolls. Well, I like Tootsie Rolls, but I prefer Milky Way to Snickers. Of course, it depends. If you're in England, I think Snickers is what we call Milky Way. Nougat, caramel, and chocolate. Here, the Snickers has peanuts in it, and the nougat is different. We also have Three Musketeers, which is just chocolate covered nougat. But the Mars company gives them different names in England and Europe. Dusty Road Sundae or malted milkshake. Yeah, it's gotten so hard to get a real malted milk. Every fast food outlet sells shakes, except Baker's. You can get a real malted milk there. But I've taken to making malts at home with the malt sugar and the ice cream and the milk. Yeah, Dawn has to have peanuts. That's right. Dawn's back east, not in England. I learned about different candy bars watching Glenn and Friends cooking on YouTube. The thing about cooking shows is it doesn't matter if the show is 7 years old. It's cooking. It isn't the news. It isn't current events. Now Dawn has to go to the store. Oh, I made chicken soup, sort of. I bought a chicken, I roasted it, froze most of it, ate some, and took the remains of the carcass and some veggies like onions and celery and carrots and boiled them up and made a stock. Not a broth, a stock. No salt, no pepper. I think I put in some spice. What was it? I don't know, tarragon or thyme, something like that. Thyme is good. Thyme, thyme. It's a mild spice. Sometimes I put in parsley. Anyway, I brought it to a boil, turned down the heat, and simmered it for a couple hours, and then strained out the chunks and used it to make a chicken soup. But I found that the broth in the soup needed more flavor than just some salt, pepper, and parsley. So I added a spoonful of chicken bouillon, because it just didn't have enough flavor for my taste. Ah, rosemary. Yeah, rosemary is really good with chicken. And out in my rose garden, there is a rosemary that ate crestline. Crestline. I bought this little tiny pot with a little tiny rosemary, and a year later it was huge. And another year later it was huger. And another year later it was even more huge. So everyone I know gets rosemary, fresh rosemary. It's taking over. It's a huge bush. Some people say they planted their rosemary and it dropped dead. It just died. Oh, another Simon and Garfunkel song. Yeah, well, you know, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme is a spell. Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Yeah. I guess it's a spell to break up a love affair. Not sure. Anyway, we're getting close to the 2 hour mark. We definitely need to get out more. I wish I could travel. On the other hand, now I'm having nightmares. If I'm gone for a week, I might come home to find squatters in my house, and the police won't kick them out. They'll say it's a civil matter, and I have to evict them as if they had rented my house with all my personal things in it. Don's going to try it on his ex-girlfriend. We'll look it up first and make sure it isn't something you won't like. Oh, man. Here and there in this community, there have been squatters found in vacant homes, but, you know, we have a pretty good I don't know what to call it. I guess network of just people who care. They'll keep an eye on your house. They'll call the sheriff when the squatter is just a burglar who's been there for 10 minutes. But sometimes people don't notice at a vacant home. And then we have trouble. Anyway, things are not so bad here. I really appreciate the small town. We all know each other, even though most of us don't know each other's names. But we see each other all the time. We have to go to the post office to get our mail because they don't come to the house. And we used to meet at the local grocery store. Goodwin's is setting up a delivery service from their second store, which is down in Redlands, down the hill, as they say. But it's going to be at least a year before they get their building repaired and up and running. The outer walls are still standing, and the bit of roof on them is still solid. It was separate from the rest of the roof, which was pointed. It was not flat, but the upright beams that held that part of the roof up cracked and fell. Nobody was harmed. Everybody got out. There were no customers at the time. There were just some people working in the back and way up in the front. And they heard the noise and knew what it was, and they got out. They were prepared to get out because they knew it might be a problem. And better safe than sorry around here has become better paranoid than dead. And then the second closest grocery store closed for a while because the snow load was making their roof sag, but it did not collapse. And the Stater brothers had to close simply because you couldn't get into the parking lot. There was too much snow. But it didn't have to happen. If the county had been prepared with a few dump trucks and skip loaders, what they do is fill the dump truck with snow, and they either dump it in a lake or take it down the hill to the county park and let the children in the valley have some snow play. They didn't do that. They didn't even have enough plows. If we'd had 1 foot of snow, that would not have been enough plows. And after the first day, the plows never came back because there was nowhere to put the snow. Totally manufactured, a matrix disaster. But hey, first we got state money for the disaster, and then we got federal money for the disaster. Well, we did get a little extra help with our outrageous winter heating bills. But for the most part, the people never saw the disaster money. It went to salaries and what they call infrastructure, which is buildings, office buildings for the most part. Should have sold the snow. When the roads were finally opened, just the main highway, really. The ski resorts did really well. We thought we might have skiing going on through July, but the snow has melted enough that, and the weather's been warm enough that most of the ski resorts had to close down. You can go to Santa's Village. It's called Sky Park at Santa's Village. Long story. It's a little amusement park that's really fun. And Santa is there year round. And it has rides and stuff. It has a zip line. Zip lines scare me, but some people enjoy them. Really, you know, this world is becoming more and more like Disneyland. No matter what you're doing, you line up and wait, spend 5 minutes doing something, if that. And then you wander around to find another line where you can stand and wait or sit and wait. That's how our lives are now. It isn't real. If you have the tiniest patch of dirt where you live, make use of it. Get your hands in the dirt. Plant something. Even if it's just a little box inside your apartment, put it by the window. Howard says we have a city called Frankenmuth, year-round Christmas. Frankenmuth, Frankenmuth. Frankenmuth. Frank's mouth, French mouth? Okay. Year-round Christmas. I think I've heard of that. on one of those YouTube videos. People wait in line for like an hour just to get pizza or bagels in the big cities. Sorry, Oswald. I guess you'll have to watch the replay or you've missed out. Sorry. Anyway, it's good to have a wrench in the room. Fortunately, there hasn't been any misbehavior today. Okay, it's 2 hours, but I think I'll go on a little longer. I want to know what your thoughts are on the Matrix. So do me a favor and post while I'm going to recycle some coffee and get a drink of water. My glass is empty and my bladder is full. So hang in there. I'll be right back. Oh, come on. Dum-de-dum, dum-de-dum-de-dum, dum-de-dum, dum-de-dum-de-dum. All right, I'll get my glass and fill it with water. Pure filter pitcher. P-U-R, pure. Greta is crap. Dum-de-dum, dum-de-dum-de-dum, dum-de-dum, dum-de-dum-de-dum. Okay, Phil thought all of Orange County was just one great big Disneyland, except that outside of the actual park, there was trash all over the place. And yet he found value in the trash in the gutter. Okay, Greta Van Fleet sounds like Led Zeppelin, but not any good? Huh. Oh, Led Zeppelin ripoff. Oh, I guess that's kind of Matrixy. Oh, that's what the music they play in Frankenmuth? Okay. Give me a hint, Oswald. Is that town in England, or is it actually in Germany? Oswald thinks we live in a neo-Trinitarian matrixarchy. It's in Michigan. Oh, well, that makes sense. Lots of German immigrants in Michigan. He needs to go back to the antique place and get the red rose tea set he's collecting. Ah. Oswald and Howard both live. Oh, it's your home state. That's right. Howard invited me to Michigan the other day, and it totally slipped my mind. I don't think I could survive in the Great Lakes. There's something about water that isn't good. Large bodies of water just isn't all that good for me to be close to it for very long. We have a lake here, but it's a small man-made lake. And from time to time, I go to the ocean beach for a short time. In Northern California, I don't get such a bad sunburn, but down here in SoCal, I have to wait till the sun is going down before I head to a beach. I don't tan, I burn and peel. I got my water. Every morning I pour a glass of water and I sip it. Might take an hour or more to drink it all, but it isn't good to just glug it down. Your poor stomach goes, oh my God, especially if it's cold, really chilled water. But most people are a little dehydrated in the morning, so I drink a little water. They say when you're dehydrated, you should not glug the water down, you should sip it. I think they're right. Works for me. And when the water glass is empty, I fill it again and just sip it. These bozos who tell you to drink 2 or 3 liters a day, whether you're thirsty or not, that's nuts. Don drinks like 5 glasses of water almost every night. Well, if you're thirsty and drinking it, sure. Oh, you wake up. It's while you're sleeping. Give you a tip. Put something, if you have a cat, put something on top of the glass. I keep forgetting where the camera is. To keep the cat's paw out of your water, or you'll be drinking cat hair, as I often do when I forget to cover the glass. My sleep pattern is weird. Monday, I fell asleep between 6 and 7 in the evening and slept till 7 in the morning. Tuesday night, couldn't fall asleep. Finally, took some cold medicine, the sinus medicine that I know will make me sleepy. And somewhere between 2 and 3 in the morning, I fell asleep. Woke up around 10, between 10 and 11 in the morning. Last night, I slept well. And I woke up early enough to get on YouTube and do a little podcast. There's something magical about water. Do you know that it's the universal solvent? It will dissolve anything. The problem is that sometimes it takes 1,000,000 years to dissolve something. But in general, water is amazing. And it's everywhere. Our bodies are more water than anything else. I think it was Phil's book, Confessions of a Crap Artist. The first thing he says is, I am made of water. You think water designed the Matrix, huh? Which movie was it where the water was alive and it was... Oh dear. I've seen too many movies and forgotten the titles, forgotten the actors' names. There's something going on outside, but I can't quite see it. Even when I tilt Great Granny's rocking chair way back, can't get a view of what's going on. It's probably nothing. The Blob. Well, the Blob was kind of made of tar, I think, or jello. Oh, it was an episode of Doctor Who. They were on Mars. This Martian colony drilled for water underground to water their garden in their gigantic greenhouse, and the water was alive. and it was killing people. Yeah, Steve McQueen was in the blog. Oh well, you know what killed it, don't you? CO2, the evil carbon dioxide. So they hit it with fire extinguishers and killed it. That reminds me of an episode of Night Gallery, the wannabe follow-up to The Twilight Zone. There's an episode where a man living out in the boonies sees a meteorite fall to Earth, and he touches it with his walking stick, and something green jumps and lands on his arm. It's kind of like moss. And he goes home and he's itching and scratching, and the green stuff is spreading all over his body. And finally, he's like green gargantua. He's got green grass or moss growing all over him. So he runs the bath and jumps in to relieve the itching. And when he lands in the water, it's like a huge explosion, and his whole house is covered in this green plant from the meteorite. That's kind of a ripoff of The Blob, but it's a very good episode of an otherwise mediocre show. Just couldn't touch the real Twilight Zone. So, I don't know how much of my world is real, but I do know that when I get in my garden and work with the plants and the dirt and the water and critters, some of the insect critters are nasty. I feel like this world is real. Yeah, VCan, you missed the whole thing. I'm getting ready to sign off. It's 2 hours and almost 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to pull the weeds and plant, well, I'll plant the daffodil bulbs that I could not plant last month because of the weather. Why did the Creator make mosquitoes? Well, you got me. Maybe the malaria bug needed a host species. Remember, this creation was damaged 3 times. First, the serpent persuaded Eve to eat the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, and that brought death into the world when Adam also ate the fruit. Second, there's chapter 6 of Genesis, in which, let's see, Eve ate the fruit in chapter 3, I think. In chapter 6, the sons of God married the daughters of men. And according to extra biblical literature like First Enoch, the Watchers, the heavenly beings who are supposed to watch out for us, take care of us, gave us more forbidden knowledge, which we use to harm ourselves, like weapons of war and poisons and sex magic. No, that isn't quite right. It's the tools for luring men to have sex. And then, after the flood, yeah, you have the Tower of Babel. It's all humans, nobody else, but they build this city and they build this temple and they build this tower. And God's saying, hey, I told you to go forth and and multiply and fill the earth. I didn't tell you to sit down and make a temple. So God confused the languages and scattered the people. And what did we do? We paved over perfectly good farmland to build cities. Cities where you can't grow your own food. Cities where you're crammed together in super crowded conditions, and the sanitation and hygiene are not very good, and you feel trapped, so you don't have a very good attitude. I've always said that San Francisco was a good place to visit, but not a good place to live. Now it isn't even a good place to visit. Yeah, Don, everything in the city is square. Well, not quite everything. Anaheim had a theater called Melody Land, and it was round. San Francisco has it's a bank building. It's a Skank of America. It's a sort of a tall, skinny pyramid. But yeah, for the most part, in the city, you're living in a box and you're working in a box. Let's see, did Phil have a favorite travel tourist destination? His was San Francisco. I haven't been to many places, but I did like Fort Morgan, where Phil is buried. It's near Denver, but it's a small town. Yes, Oswald, it was Skank of America, wasn't it? Thank you. Oh, yeah, banks are in debt trouble. Well, that's what happens when you think the matrix can multiply your money. Shuffling numbers around on a computer does not create wealth. You have to make things to create wealth. And everywhere we turn, government regulation makes it more and more difficult to make things. But it's so easy to sit at a computer and shuffle the numbers around. Buy this stock, sell that. CD or whatever investment. Yeah, we pay the debt. Well, we've never, this United States has never failed to pay the debt. The problem is we're only paying the interest while the principal gets more and more and more, because the Congress seems to think that all they have to do is write some legislation and the money will magically appear. That's your money and my money. Oh, Bitcoin is subject to huge crashes, worse than a bank crash, and they never go out of business no matter how much value you lose. Of course, there was that guy who was into cryptocurrency and was siphoning it off to donate to causes and buy himself a mansion in the Bahamas. I haven't heard much about him. Has he gone to trial? Has he made a deal with the prosecutor? I don't know. I hear nothing. Last thing I heard was somebody made his bail and he was out on bail, but being monitored so he wouldn't flee. Okay. That's a real matrix, the financial world. And by the way, both Fox and Budweiser have suffered severe drops in their value of their stock. I don't drink beer anyway, so it doesn't affect me. I kind of once in a while watch Gutfeld on YouTube, but I had just started watching Tucker Carlson once in a while, and now he's gone. No explanation. I'd like to know why. What did he do? Oh, yeah, silver has been manipulated for ages. Around 1980, the something brothers were buying up silver and silver futures to manipulate the price of silver, and they made a killing, and a bunch of people lost a ton of money. Well, I never buy futures in anything. If I want silver, I'll buy a silver coin. But back in 1980, it skyrocketed to $30 an ounce. That would be peanuts now with all the inflation we've had. The Koch brothers. Thank you, Viken. Yeah. Well, now silver's around $20 an ounce, and that's incredibly low. It should be around 100. When you look at the price of gold, they're usually connected because they're both used in electronics manufacturing. Silver, gold, dollar bills, it's all the same. Yeah, give me food, beer, and tobacco, Don says. Well, thing is, I have food. I have toilet paper, not a garage full like some idiots in the last supply chain shortage from COVID. But, I can last 2 or 3 weeks. And all my utilities are still on. Whew. But if I have to, I'll burn wood. That's what they're. Torah, you're going to have to say hi if you're going to be like that, trying to get into my coffee. Yeah, say hi to your adoring fans. She's kitty kissing, squinting. Where was I? I have coffee. But they're shoving people into a situation where they want us to give up gas and go electric. The electric grid already goes down regularly. Oh, don't plug in your electric car during peak hours. You'll cause a blackout. They already have rolling blackouts. This neighborhood will be down for 2 hours, then this other neighborhood will be down. People are going to have to burn wood, which is going to cause a lot of pollution. Yeah, hi, Steve. BBB. Um, burning wood is what they do in third world countries. Have I ever spilled coffee on Torah? Not that I know of. I spilled water on her once because she tripped me while I was carrying a glass of water. Let's see, Oswald says, furthermore, what do you think of French press coffee? I'm not impressed. Yeah, but yeah, there's the story Joseph P. Farrell tells about how the German, I don't know, some kind of bureaucrat wanted to see the German gold that was stored in Fort Knox, and they couldn't find it. They'll rehypothecate is a fancy word for creating gold out of nothing. It's only there on paper. It doesn't really exist. Oh, Keurig is crap. I've had Keurig. Don't like it at all. Even with really good coffee in a a pod that I refilled with the good stuff. Blech. However, coffee. I've been lazy lately drinking instant. I should quit that and just get the Don Francisco, whatever flavor I want to try next, and make that. The real coffee. Oh, floor sweeping coffee. Sorry, Beacon. Yeah, yes, that's true, Steve. You buy the beans and grind them when you need them. That way it's much fresher. Once you grind the coffee, the oils start degrading and they dry out. I like instant coffee well enough. It really is quite different from the real thing. Anyway, we're at 2.5 hours, and I really should go out and tend my garden like Candide. Yes, coffee can be grown with pesticides. I would avoid the major brands that come in metal cans. Hills Brothers, to my mind, is the worst. Folgers and Uban and Nescafe. Uban used to be my brand, but now it's too strongly acid for me. Um, Nescafe, of course, is made by Nestle, and they're evil. Problem is, I like Taster's Choice, and it's made by Nestle. They bought it out. Yeah, that's right, Steve. You take the instant and put in a little cold water first so you don't shock it with boiling water. And I test the temperature so I don't shock myself when I drink it. So I often add a little cold water on top. Oswald says Nestle is nestled deep in Satan's coin purse. No kidding. They're evil. They pump out the water from natural springs, creeks, and so forth, and then sell it to you at $5 a gallon. And you have to buy it because you don't have any water left when they get through. If you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need. Delta Dart says, quoting Marcus Tullius Cicero, well, I have a garden and a library, but I have to keep paying the bank or I'll lose the garden. My house has a mortgage. Oh, apple cider vinegar. You know, there's good evidence that lemon juice is better than apple cider vinegar. I can't get near apple cider vinegar. I tried 12 ounces of water, 12 ounces, and 3 drops from an eyedropper of apple cider vinegar, and I still could not drink it. Howard says your water's bad, all the old oil wells. Yeah, Bakersfield has that problem. A community, or maybe it's a separate city, I think it's part of Bakersfield, called Oildale. Kind of wrecks the air and water. Yeah, Delta Dart says he uses lemon juice in apple cider vinegar in salad dressing, but he still adds lemon. He can't drink the apple cider vinegar either. Yeah, lemonade is lemon water. Frankly, I take the bottle of lemon juice and drink it straight. I like it. Always have. When I was a child, one of those little plastic lemons full of the juice was a special treat for me. Oh, Oswald would probably add lemon juice to any of my recipes. Okay. Yeah, it does a lot. Most recipes, if they call for vinegar and you don't have it, you can use lemon juice. It is best to use fresh squeezed, but I can't always get fresh lemons. Ooh, Steve says he heard that in Saudi Arabia, they pump the water out from the oil wells and filter it. Well, yeah, they pump the water into the oil wells in the first place, but I don't know. Well, they are in the desert. They kind of have to recycle every drop of water they can get. Well, you know, our tap water is boiled, treated with chlorine or other chemicals, and then filtered. But I filter it again with a pure water filter. But if I'm just making coffee or tea, I just use the tap water because here on the mountain, it has a good balance of minerals and it is not fluoridated. But yeah, the world needs more huge water filters for the cities. They need to quit pumping out the groundwater on which farmers rely to feed cities instead of building reservoirs to catch the rain. I'm still waiting for them to start building the reservoir that California um, approved in 1979. They haven't even started building it. It's funded and everything. Yeah. Well, I got to get going. It's more than 2.5 hours, and we aren't even talking about the Matrix now. Pay attention to your dreams, your daydreams, your visions. They mean something. Yeah, fluoride is a toxic byproduct of aluminum production, and they couldn't find a safe way to store it or process it, so they put it in our water. Okay, on that happy note, thank you all for listening and have a great day. Hit it again. Typos. There, here we go. And I'll catch you some other time. Dreaming about a UFO invasion weekend. Well, there are things in the sky and we don't know what they are, but I am not jumping to the space alien hypothesis just yet. Read the work of Walter Bosley, especially the second and third books in his Inland Empire trilogy. Apparently, people had working aircraft before the Civil War. The Wright brothers were Johnny-come-latelys. His series is titled Empire of the Wheel. The first volume is about some mysterious deaths around the turn of the 1900s, the 20th century, in San Bernardino. The second volume is about the aircraft, the Aero Club. The third volume explores who might be behind some of the nefarious goings on in our society. Yes, on holograms and stuff, and real things, and we don't know what they are, but I think they're ours until proven otherwise. I think that some black agency of the government is trying to make us think that they're aliens from outer space. I think they're humans. And they might be from another planet, but they're us. Our children returning from the colonies, if you will. But that isn't today's topic, so I'll catch you all later. Bye.